I just watched the first episode of The Longest Promise. It's so good. The Longest Promise is beautiful, engaging, and makes me care about the fate of their main characters. I have been waiting for this show for the longest time, and right off the bat, it was not a disappointment. Of course, nothing's perfect. There are some parts that were a bit meh, and there were also many parts that were really good. And the parts that were meh, there were reasons that they didn't put a negative impression on the whole show for me. So starting with meh parts, I have written down 3. And part 1, in episode 1, there were some plot that's the core intrigue that results in Shi Ying, our male lead, becoming a banished prince. And the core intrigue appears quite childish to an audience who are used to countless really good core intrigue dramas, like Impressing Palace, like Nirvana on Fire, and lots of non-Chinese shows as well. Whereas in The Longest Promise, it was very short. It was maybe about 10 minutes of plot. But it was very simplistic, but it didn't bother me much because The Longest Promise isn't a court intrigue drama. And this 10 minutes of court story is meant to be a short snippet that provides Shi Ying's backstory and also make us feel for the fallen prince who is virtuous and wronged by evil schemes. And it also sets up the female lead, Zhu Yan, as a righteous princess who is very innocent and believes in what she knows instead of what is rumored. Our male second also makes an appearance. He is perfect for that role of the wise and protective and beautiful butler. But anyways, by the end of episode 1, our leads have grown up and are played by our adult actors Xiao Zhan and Renmin. No time was wasted. And on to number 2 part, the part that was meh. In episode 2, there are some scenes where Zhu Yan acts in some very cutesy and manga-like ways that are a bit unnatural, like talking to herself out loud all the time, some anime-like body language, etc. I believe in Renmin as an actress. I haven't watched her other shows yet. I think she is really good, according to other reviewers, in playing the really sad girl, the tortured princess, the bullied high schooler. So I think this role is a challenge for her. But I think these things don't bother me much either, because at the end of the day, the actress is a cute and young girl. So I kind of just chuckled at the few moments she was overacting, and I even thought the scene where she met Shi Ying was really cute. It was the trope of the bubbly, funny girl and the beautiful, solemn guy who has a humorous side. An oldie but a goodie in my books. And number 3, that was a bit meh, was in episode 3. In that episode, Shi Ying finds out that his mother has been living in agony for years and has just passed in the most painful way. It was the first time that he expressed strong emotions because he's usually a very composed priest-like figure. Since the days of the Untamed, Xiao Zhan has always been very good at the highly emotional crying scenes. He cries beautifully and cries differently according to the moment. And he builds up his emotion in a very heart-melting way. And here in The Longest Promise, there is no exception. However, in this case, the specific plot was his mother's passing overwhelmed him, and he unwittingly created a snowstorm due to his strong emotions and high level of power. He would wave his arm and it would create a gust of strong wind and lightning. But I feel like his arm movements could have used a better take. He seemed to be using similar arm movements as when he uses magic to fight, but with more recklessness because it was a strong emotional moment. But I felt that the arm movement still looked more controlled compared to the wreck that is his mental state. So, in other words, for a few seconds, his body language didn't seem to catch up with the emotional intensity he expressed on his face and voice. So, I feel like I am being a bit nitpicky. Other than this point, I think it was a really well acted scene. And Xiao Zhan had made me feel that Shi Ying's heart at that moment was still that of a helpless child who is still very young despite his maturity in other ways. And the loss of his mother was still very devastating for him. He is not a hard person. He is still a very vulnerable person. And those are the meh parts that I have noticed from watching the first 3 episodes. And moving on to the parts that I loved, that I really, really enjoyed, the good parts. So I have 4 parts for the good parts. And number 1, I think with many similar genres in this idol historical sort of fairy genre, there is a common mistake where the creators, in an attempt to characterize the female lead as lively, they make her brash instead. So I was worried that Zhu Yan would be characterized in this way, but she is not. You can tell that even though she is often preoccupied with whatever she's personally interested in, aka resurrection magic, because she wants to resurrect the male lead who she thought was dead. And she's not always behaving in a ladylike, in quotes, way. But she is never rude or unreasonable. For example, at one point, Shi Ying was fighting these Ice Clan intruders, and she yelled, be careful, because somebody was attacking him from the back. And I was like, oh no, we're not gonna make her block an attack with her own body and then get hurt, right? That's such a dumb trope because it doesn't make any sense. And fortunately, they didn't. She tried using her own fire magic to attack the intruders. It's not powerful, but it's a logical move. There were other instances where she's being playful but not rude, and she is being understanding of other people's actions. So the conclusion from that is her characterization isn't perfect, but is still logical and cute. And good point number 2, Shi Ying is perfect. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I am biased, I admit, because I'm a fan of Xiao Zhan. But the portrayal of Shi Ying so far just brings a smile to my face. Nothing feels forced. Everything just feels wonderful. First of all, he is beautiful. When Xiao Zhan just stands there in Shi Ying's clothes and in Shi Ying's posture, he is already exuding the serene and powerful aura of Shi Ying. He is also playful. Within the first 2 episodes, we see Shi Ying playing 2 tricks on 2 different people. And we know that he has a sense of humor and is not just serious all the time. The way he jokes is also consistent with his usual cool personality too. And talking about cool, point number 3 of what I really liked is the first battle scene. First of all, I think Shi Ying in this show, he is basically like a battle mage. And I googled the definition of battle mage. And here it is again. What is a battle mage? A wizard specializing in close magical combat. Someone proficient in fighting with both melee weapons and offensive magic. That's exactly what Shi Ying is. In the show, they had a weird translation to call him preceptor. I looked up the word preceptor and it just means instructor. I don't know why they decided to use such an obscure word in the translation, but yeah, he throws out magic with hand gestures, and he is also very agile, avoiding attacks from all sides with ease. I enjoyed the first battle, like enjoying a smooth roller coaster ride. Good point number 4. Xiao Zhan's dubbing skill has definitely improved. I clearly remember the dubbing Xiao Zhan did for Doulo Continent a couple of years ago, and the dubbing here for The Longest Promise is noticeably improved. I think throughout Doulo Continent, it was obvious to me, a native Chinese speaker, that Tang San was dubbed by Xiao Zhan in a studio. It didn't feel like it was live at all. I believe it was the first time he dubbed himself, and I think everybody has to start somewhere. I'm glad that he started there. But at that point, he was not able to mesh his voice well with his video image. And he is able to do so now for The Longest Promise. I think fans have all heard of Xiao Zhan working on his dialogue with intention these years, and I believe he got to the next level. His dubbing now sounds very close to professional voice dubbers, I would say, and it syncs naturally with the image of him on screen. And for the highly emotional scenes, his dubbing in the Doulo Continent was a lot more muted compared to the emotions on his face, on his expression, and they didn't match well. And here, the problem was much more improved as well. The emotions in his dubbing voice was able to match his real emotions during the filming closely. And I still like live recordings the best, of course, because it's the most real. And his dubbing now is not perfect. I don't think it's yet at the same level as the really good voice actors. And of course, there's always room for even more spectacular performances from Xiao Zhan in the future. But I was really appreciative that we could all see his improvement in the dialogue department. So, in conclusion, go watch The Longest Promise. The first 3 episodes flew by me quickly, and I can't wait for Netflix to open the next episodes. And if you've watched it already, do you agree or disagree with any of these points? And what did you think of the show?